All right, let's close things out with some soccer news. Back in the United States, we didn't get an opportunity to react to this because the last time we did a news and notes episode, again, things that break when Attacking Third goes live. If you want news to break, just make sure Attacking Third goes live because it's like it'll happen right when we're on air. So we didn't get a chance to react to this, so we wanted to bring it on to this episode and give ourselves a chance to discuss it with you all. News out of the USLW League. Shout out to President Amanda Vandervoort. We actually had an interview with her some time ago, so make sure you go and check it out because there was a lot of good information. But the USL Super League will launch in 2024, and the new update is that it is going to launch not as a second tier league as it was initially announced, but as a first division league in the United States. Big news.
Massive. This is massive coming out of the USL Super League and the W League that is to join. It was already going to be exciting because we need more women's professional leagues in the United States and more opportunity for teams to compete at a really high level. And when this was announced that it was going to be a Division I league, it basically saying that this will be in direct competition with the NWSL. Now, the teams that the USL Super League have announced across the country are in direct competition with the NWSL based on where they are and kind of how that all breaks out. But is this at all a concern because of how the NWSL has just made it to its 10th year? And that was a huge celebration because former leagues haven't done it. And now we get this competition, plus the expansion teams in the NWSL. This means that there's going to be like 25 Division I top tier women's professional teams in the country in the next year or so, which is like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it, but there's so many question marks still to come about what this all means for the landscape.
Yeah, no, I'm eager to. Well, I'm eager to see if if everything if gets approved. I mean, it sounds like it has for the most part. I know U.S. Soccer has to. There are certain things you have to go through to qualify for a first division league. So I think it was important that in this announcement that USL said, hey, we're not going to be second division. We want to launch as a first division in 2024. They came correct. They said, hey, we've got markets in place. We have met these kind of standard minimum thresholds for market areas and things like that. So, I mean, even just looking at the map in place for this new league alongside NWSL, there's a lot of teams in states where there are already NWSL clubs
Right.
that have already been in these markets and have tapped into, the women's soccer, fan base. I think whether, like, for example, we're looking at Washington State. There's, Washington State is going to have a USL team. There's now going to be 3 NWSL sides in the state of California, but that's also going to include a USL team, a couple of different opportunities for USL sites in Arizona, in Texas, kind of in the central area of the country as well, where I know I've been dreaming for more teams centrally. So, Wisconsin, Tennessee, etc. So a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity. So the way that the USL Super League and the way that they announced it is that there's going to be initial markets for the inaugural 2024 season. Some of those including Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, Lexington, Kentucky, Phoenix, Arizona, Washington State, Tampa Bay, Florida, Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, and then Washington, D.C. And then they announced other markets that would be coming in subsequent seasons. So they still waiting on a couple approvals, but that including Chattanooga, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Indiana, Jacksonville, Florida, Madison, Wisconsin, Oakland, California. So they've already put out there a number of cities that are already going to have them. They've got approval and they're ready to hit the ground running in 2024. And then a couple more that it's like, okay, these are our top ones to get into play. They just need to nail down a stadium and a couple other details need to be wrinkled out before they can get into play. But yeah, I mean, competition. I mean,
things.
Also, like Washington, D.C., like the fact that
Yes.
it's very specifically Washington, D.C., there's already Washington Spirit there in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only one so far that's like in direct city competition that has been announced so far.
No, it was interesting to sort of see the layout of the map and the announcement when it came through, and it's so all excellent points that you bring up, but they're not little points; they're big ones. It's like not only do you have to have the interested markets, but you've got to have the money behind it, and in ownership groups, the facilities, etc. Like there are certain minimum standards that these clubs are going to have to meet in order to retain and maintain a Division One or a First Division status within the U.S. soccer sphere in this country. So I mean, it's we hear it all the time that competition is a good thing, but I don't know if out of 2024 that this is going to be something that's going to be considered like direct competition with NWSL specifically. I think one of the things that I think are really interesting about it, though, that will set itself apart from NWSL. So maybe there's not going to be like like that immediate direct competition in terms of, I think when I think of competition, it's like which players are you stealing from which league, and I don't know if that's going to happen right away.
Right.
I just don't I don't think like Lindsay Herrera is going to come back to the States and play in the USL league. I just don't. So
I don't see that happening.
Anything's possible, of course, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. So,
and it's also on a different schedule, right? They're
going.
Yes,
I was alluding to. There's a lot of cool different things here that can set USL apart from NWSL. One of those things will be this schedule. So we've heard a lot of this, this back and forth about the benefits of going to an August to June kind of schedule instead of a kind of not as year-round schedule like the league
March,
is. They have a
November,
they have a spring to fall league, and so they want to have August to June, and sort of make sure that they're also on a similar global calendar schedule, and that is something that's going to be probably, I think, for me more than anything else, one of the main differences that will set them apart from NWSL. Not so much the markets that they've introduced and how they want to go from second division to first division. That stuff is always a possibility if you get all of those right pieces in place, whether it's the money, the investment, and facilities.
Yeah.
I think what's really going to help set them apart and might attract some players will be the difference in calendar.
I do too. I really think that's a big change that a lot of people have kind of circled and their eyes have drawn to it. They just make some interesting points, like the fact that in this inaugural 2024 season set to kick off in August, they're aiming to have 10 to 12 teams when only 8 are initially announced as being able and ready to go. Now, they have a bit more time than, say, the NWSL season that is having Utah Royals in the Bay Area joining in January, right? That's when they need to be ready to go of 2024. This is August of 2024, but still, I think like the idea is there, right? This needs to happen. It does need to happen. There are 101 professional men's soccer teams in the United States. There are 12 women's teams. 12. That is it. Because the way the MLS works is they have these feeder systems and they have like the Next Pro teams and they have the USL and League One and Champions League. And they have all these different divisions which act as feeder systems for these players. Now, there's so many different factors that come into this. Is the NWSL going to start doing feeder programs and homegrown programs? I think that would be really beneficial, but that's not going to come just like that. You have to develop that, and you have to be able to make these clubs that have feeder programs and develop children from a young age if they want to do that. That's why it's been so successful in the MLS. I mean, specifically, I'm looking at like the Philadelphia Union. They have so many homegrown players. That's what really they rely on to build their team, not necessarily the drafts and getting international signings, but they're players that they've been developing since they were 10, 12 years old to play within this system. Now, this is going to help, right? Having these another 12 teams. So we go from 12 women's professional teams to 24, 26 in just a matter of 2 years. But 101 compared to the men's is very, very different. It's going to take some growing pains. We're going to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if they're going to stick with with the 8 teams, if there's going to be, maybe
They want 10 to 12. They made
yeah,
an
maybe
announcement saying
if
we
they
want 10 to
expand it
12.
to at least 10, I'm very, very curious about it. I think even some of the ownership groups that are like even attached to to have interest in this. I mean, the club out of Tucson, Arizona has John Perlman and Jeff Arnold as part of their like ownership structure. I mean, Tim Tebow, part of like Jacksonville, Florida's potential ownership, and we've seen a lot out of Forward Madison and Oakland Roots as well. And these are the clubs that want to, add a women's side into their soccer portfolio. So, it's the initial announcements, and I'm sure we'll eventually see some updates along the way. But I think they're aware of that. I think they're in front of it in the sense that they understand that there are certain standards that you have at the Division 1 level, and they have to try to make sure that they not only meet those standards but maintain them, right, moving forward. So we'll see. It's an exciting time for sure, and 2024 is literally right around the corner. It's here basically. Like we're already halfway through 2023. We're already thinking about 2024. But let's get to the World Cup first, Lisa. For sure.
Please, can we just get there?